The September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon were the last straw for the American government before they declared war on terrorists and the governments harboring those terrorists. After these attacks, terrorism dominated U.S. foreign policy. President Bush successfully surrounded himself with political veterans with foreign policy experience, and though his confident and strong approach against terrorism won over the support of many Americans, he often alienated other countries. President Bush, organizing an international coalition against both al-Qaeda and the Taliban in Afghanistan, with the help of the Pakistani government, marked the beginning of the War on Terror.
During President Bush's speech to the joint session of Congress on September 20, 2001, he said, "The enemy of America is not our many Muslim friends. It is not our many Arab friends. Our enemy is a radical network of terrorists and every government that supports them. Our war on terror begins with al-Qaeda, but it does not end there. It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been found, stopped, and defeated." His response to the question about why the terrorists hate Americans was, "They hate what they see right here, a democratically elected government. Their leaders are self-appointed. They hate our freedoms, our freedom of religion, our freedom of speech, our freedom to vote and assemble and disagree with each other." Within months of giving the speech to Congress, al-Qaeda forces in Afghanistan were shattered and the Taliban had been driven from power.
The War on Terror officially began in 2001. However, conflict between the United States and Arab nations has been ongoing for decades. Osama bin Laden formed the radical Islamic group known as al-Qaeda in 1988 during the war between the Soviet Union and Afghanistan. During the war, both the United States and bin Laden supported Afghanistan and helped to defeat the Soviets. However, bin Laden states that he merely tolerated the U.S. during the war, as his first concern was defeating communism. The breaking point occurred in 1990 with the Persian Gulf War, when Iraq invaded Kuwait. Because this move threatened Western oil sources in Saudi Arabia and the Persian Gulf, the U.S. launched a military campaign known as Operation Desert Storm, in an effort to push Iraq out of Kuwait. Bin Laden saw the U.S.'s involvement in a foreign war as the height of American arrogance. His anger and disapproval of Western society led to many terrorist attacks linked to al-Qaeda. On December 29, 1992, a bomb exploded in a hotel in Aden, Yemen, where American troops were staying while on their way to Somalia. However, the troops had already left and the bomb killed 2 Australian tourists. On February 26, 1993, a bomb exploded in an underground garage of the World Trade Center, which killed 6 people. In October of 1993, 18 service members were killed while on a peacekeeping mission in Somalia.
The worst terrorist attack linked to al-Qaeda came on September 11, 2001, when members of al-Qaeda hijacked 4 American airplanes. 2 of the planes were flown into the Twin Towers in New York City, which killed 2,600 people. Another plane was flown into the Pentagon, where 125 people died. The passengers on the 4th plane tried to regain control from the hijackers and crashed the plane in a field in Pennsylvania. The crash resulted in 43 casualties. After 9/11, President Bush declared a war on Afghanistan, home of al-Qaeda, to end bin Laden and his terrorist group. When the Taliban, an Islamic fundamentalist group in Afghanistan, refused to hand over bin Laden, their government was overthrown by U.S. bombing, U.S. Special Forces, and Afghan troops in the anti-Taliban Northern Alliance. Although American and Afghan forces continued to pursue the remnants of al-Qaeda, they failed to capture bin Laden. Hamid Karzai became head of the Afghan government with the support of the United States, but Afghanistan remained unstable and divided by Taliban conflicts.
In 2002, the Bush administration declared that Iraq was harboring weapons of mass destruction and were supporting terrorist groups such as al-Qaeda. The Secretary of State negotiated an inspection plan, which Iraq accepted, but the UN failed to find weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. In 2003, George W. Bush declared that Iraq had not complied with numerous UN resolutions, and so the United States launched an air attack on Iraq known as Operation Iraqi Freedom. In less than 4 weeks, U.S. armed forces captured the capital city Baghdad and ended Saddam Hussein's dictatorship. However, this did not stop the violence. Groups of insurgents such as Shiite militia and foreign fighters, including al-Qaeda, continued to attack U.S. and allied troops and each other. In 2005, the Iraqis held their first election, created a national assembly, and selected a prime minister, but the violence continued. It was not until 2008 that the violence started to subside and the United States started to turn over the control of the provinces to the Iraqi government. With the election of Barack Obama as president in 2008, he began a program to wind down U.S. combat operations in Iraq. The U.S. helped Iraq to battle insurgents through the end of 2011. With an increase in Taliban attacks in Afghanistan, Obama approved an increase in U.S. forces, which proved effective.
In May 2011, Osama bin Laden was killed in Pakistan in a CIA operation. In 2012, President Obama and President Karzai of Afghanistan signed a long-term partnership agreement. The new focus is for the U.S. to train and support the Afghanistan military and eventually end the U.S. combat mission. Although some people think that the war on terror ended in 2011 with the death of Osama bin Laden, they overlook terrorism that is still present today. The modern-day terrorist group ISIS has its roots in al-Qaeda. The American invasion of Iraq in 2003 created conditions for more radical Islamic groups like ISIS to form. When the United States toppled the regime of Saddam Hussein, they put Shiite Muslims in charge, who persecuted and excluded the Sunni Muslim minority. These Sunni Muslims rebranded the al-Qaeda terrorist group and focused their attention on Syria's government forces. ISIS has been deemed responsible for many terrorist attacks in Iran, Europe, and the United States. Many are asking when the war on terror will end.